Hello everyone, this is Ravindar Dundra and welcome back to my channel. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about class 10 CBSE Economics chapter number 3, that is money and credit. So in the previous lectures about this chapter, we have discussed about what is credit and how it plays an important role in the people's life. So there we have discussed about two different situations of this credit. So how it plays a positive role and how it pushes the person into a debt trap. Then we have also discussed about terms of credit. So we have also seen what you mean by this collateral. So now in continuation with that, the next topic which we are going to discuss is about this various sources of this credit. That means from where we can obtain the loan or from where we can actually get the credit. So basically different sources are there from where we can get the loans. It may be from the banks, maybe from the relatives, maybe from the friends or money lenders, or it can be traders, whoever it may be. So all these categories of sources of loan have been clubbed together and they are categorized into two different sectors. One is formal sector loans and the second one is this informal sector loans. So here when it comes to the formal sector loans, only two different sources are involved in this formal sector. So there one is the banks and cooperatives, which means if we obtain the loan from the banks as well as the cooperative societies, we can say that it is a formal source of credit. Then if you take the next one, that is informal sources of credit. So here it includes other remaining things except banks and cooperatives. It may be from money lenders, it may be from the traders, it may be from the employers, it may be from the relatives, friends, etc. etc. So whomsoever it may be except banks and cooperatives, remaining all the things, all the sources of credit, they come under this informal sources. So let us see now what are the features involved or what are the differences between the formal source of credit as well as the informal source of credit. So first we will see about this formal source of credit. So in the formal source of credit, basically RBI supervises the functioning of the banks as well as cooperative societies. That means RBI we have discussed in the earlier topics where it is a central bank of our country, Reserve Bank of India. So what this RBI does is that it supervises the functioning of the banks. That means whether the banks are functioning properly or not, whether they are giving loans or not. So all these things are supervised by the RBI. Then the next thing that which is done by RBI is also that RBI ensures banks to provide loans to all categories. So what RBI ensures is that the banks are giving loans not only to the profit making business, not only to the big industrial sector, but it makes sure that the banks are giving loans to the small creditors, or you can say small traders, small farmers, small business people. So that means it tries to make the banks to give source of credit to every category of the people. Then the next thing is that banks have to submit the information to RBI periodically. That means from time to time banks they have to submit some kind of information to the bank RBI. So what kind of information they have to submit is that how much they are lending to the people and at what rate of interest they are lending and to whom they are lending. So all these factors they have to send that information to the RBI. So from this you can say, and very important feature about this formal source of credit is that usually if we compare with the informal source of credit, the rate of interest in this formal source of credit is somewhat very lesser compared to this informal sector. So now next we will see the features of this informal sector. Let us discuss about the other source of credit, that is the informal source of credit. So what are the features of this informal source of credit? So the first and very important thing is that no organization supervises the credit in this credit activities of this informal sector. That means before we have seen that in the formal sector RBI is supervising to whom they are giving and how much they are giving, and it also ensures everyone would get the loans. But in this case, in the informal source of credit, what is happening? There is no organization which supervises the credit activities of these people. Then the next thing is that here the rate of interest may be very higher if we compare with the formal source of credit. So here because as we have seen money lenders they may charge high rate of interest, or traders or relatives or whomsoever it may be, mostly the rate of interest in the informal source of credit will be higher compared to this formal source of credit. Then the next thing is that unfair means to get back the money. That means once the money is given as a loan or credit to the people, then when they get back, if they are unable to pay, that means the person who has given the loan, he may use some unfair practices, he may beat them or he may scratch. So there are different ways, or there are different unfair methods which are used by the money lenders to get back their money. But whereas if you see in the formal source of credit, they can't find this kind of activities. So that is one drawback about this informal source of credit. Then the next thing is that it may lead to fall in debt trap. So that means suppose a person has taken a loan of 1 lakh rupees just for example, but when it comes to as soon as he need to repay that money, the interest including interest, it has become 1,25,000, but the income of the person is only 1 lakh. So therefore sometimes what happens, the situation which happens here is that more than the income of the person, he need to pay some extra money. So his income is only 1 lakh, he took 1 lakh, but when he has to repay, it has become 1,25,000 because of the higher interest. So therefore what is happening here, the person is paying more than what he is earning. So in that kind of situations, what happens, it might lead to the debt trap. That means a situation in which he or she may not be unable to repay the money. So therefore, because of all these reasons, what is the solution? What must be done is that, so here banks and cooperatives need to lend more. So if you want to find out the solution for these problems, the first and very important thing is that banks and cooperatives need to lend more. That means what they are saying is that formal source of credit should be increased in the country. Then the next thing is that this leads to the higher income. Suppose if you are taking loans from the formal source of credit, what happens? It will increase your income. So once your income is increased, you can grow crops, you can do the business, you can set up small scale industries, or whatever the activities you would like to do, you can do from the formal source of credit. Since it is a cheaper compared to the informal source of credit, you can borrow more and you will get a higher income. So if you get higher income, you can set up any industry, or you can grow crops, you can buy inputs. So lot of things can be done. Then what happens? This will automatically solve these problems which are there in the informal source of credit. So therefore what they are trying to say is that cheap and affordable credit is the crucial for the country's development. That means in order to develop our country, in order to make our country in the development path, what we have to do is that it is best that we need to provide cheap and affordable credit to the all kinds of people. Then only we can develop it very easily. So why we can develop it very easily? How is that? Suppose if we are providing cheap and affordable credit, what happens? The income increases. Then if the income is there, he can do different things with that income, and automatically he or she can settle in their lives. So because of that, what they are saying, what the experts are saying is that cheap and affordable credit is the crucial for the country's development. So hope you have understood that the formal source of credit can be the main source of credit, so that we can improve our country. But let us see how it is distributed. How many people are taking from formal source of credit and how many people are taking from informal source of credit. So next we will discuss about that. Let us discuss about the distribution of sources of credit between formal source as well as this informal source. That means how many number of people are taking from formal source of credit as well as how many people are taking from informal source of credit. So here if you can see the pie charts, the pie charts represents the source of credit for people in urban areas. That means we have taken the example of urban areas, people who are living in urban areas, and we have categorized the people into 4 different groups from poor to the rich. So and here the shaded region, this particular region represents the formal source of credit, and this one represents the informal source of credit. So first let us start with the poor households in the urban areas. So here in the urban areas, if you take the case of poor households, so here only 15% of the people, they are getting their loans from the formal source of credit, and remaining 85% of the people, they are taking from the informal source of credit. So next, if you can take households with few assets, that means you can say somewhat a middle class people, you can say here only 47% of the people they are getting the money from formal source of credit. Again here also majority of the people they are obtaining their loans from informal source of credit. Then if you take some of the well-off households, that means the rich households. So here if you can see, very few people are actually taking from informal source of credit, and the reasons you know, because these people they have collateral and banks trust them, so therefore they get more money from formal source of credit. So that is the reason only 28% of the people they are getting loans from informal source of credit, and remaining 72% of the people they are actually getting from formal source of credit. And if you take the rich households, the ultra rich, here you can see 90% of the people they are actually obtaining their loans from formal source of credit, and only 10% they are obtaining from informal source of credit. So same is the case with the rural areas. So if you can see the pie chart here, you can observe that here in the rural areas also the similar kind of pattern can be observed. Most of the people they are obtaining their loan from the informal source of credit. So from this what we can conclude is that both in rural areas as well as in the urban areas, 50% of the people's needs, whatever they require, they are met by the informal source of credit, and the remaining 50% they are getting only from formal source of credit. So from this what we are trying to suggest is that the banks as well as the cooperative societies they have to increase their lending capacity. That means they need to expand their source of credit to the different, or you can say large section of the people. Since only 50% of the people they have the access to this formal source of credit from the banks as well as the cooperative societies, they need to expand, and at the same time these banks as well as the cooperative societies they should also ensure that they are giving to every person, or you can say they are almost giving to the person who are require these loans. So therefore we can actually move our country towards the development path, and at the same time we can save the people from something known as this debt trap. So both here in the rural areas as well as in the urban areas, most of the people who take loans from the informal source of credit they are falling in this debt trap, which means they are unable to repay the loans which they have taken. So once again what we are trying to suggest is that we need to increase the lending capacity of the formal source of credit, that is from the banks as well as the cooperative societies, and at the same time we should also ensure that they are reaching to the people who are in need of the money. So with this we will I'll stop here. In the next lectures we will discuss about this next topic, that is about self-help groups. Thank you.